think we're ready to go.
Ready?
Are you ready?
Ready.
Big topic today. Topic, we've got to look at the camera, not at the monitor.
Yeah.
Down.
We look
down, not up.
Resist.
It's lower than normal.
It is.
It's a different angle. It's like a down looking up angle.
Is it? Oh yeah, too. There's two.
Just for a change.
That's good.
We'll try it out, see how I feel about it.
Let's try. Welcome back.
Week 6.
Week 6.
Is it week 6? Week 6, topic 6. Big one today.
It is. The
Huge.
biggest.
The biggest. That's a big
heard it,
call.
yeah.
The most important thing we will talk about all year.
Everyone does it.
Everyone, without exception.
Reveal.
I do it, you do it, we all do it. We
all do
all breathe.
We breathe.
We breathe. Let's talk about breathing. I love to breathe.
I love it too.
I remember reading somewhere that you can go a certain number of days or weeks without food, and you can go a certain number of days without water, but you can't go more than kind of 8 minutes without oxygen before your brain dies.
That's right.
So pretty important.
Very essential to human life.
Very essential. And how many times do you think we breathe in a day, Matt?
Approximately 17,000.
Little
estimate.
Those math skills are
Yeah,
on point.
huge.
17,000 breaths every day, and they all count.
They all count.
They all
15 to
count.
20, roughly 15 to 20 per minute.
That's a lot of breathing.
There's a lot of breathing. So why do we breathe?
So why do we breathe? Should we talk about that?
Let's talk about it.
A few reasons. One of the reasons that we breathe is to get oxygen in, and one of the other reasons is to get carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of chemical processes within the body, out. Why else do we breathe? We won't go into the science too much. We talked about not talking about that because there's a lot to it, and it's probably a little bit. You probably don't need to know it, but you do need to know that breathing is important.
Yeah.
We breathe to get oxygen in, we breathe to get carbon dioxide back out again. Within the body, there's a process that takes place that creates adenosine triphosphate, which the body uses for lots of different processes.
So majority of the body's cells require oxygen to create ATP. Which powers a lot of functions within the body.
Yeah, so crucial.
It's crucial.
So let's talk about, I think the most important thing is how someone might know if they're not breathing optimally. Do we have some key points on that?
We do.
Let's talk about that.
Optimal breathing?
Optimal breathing or suboptimal breathing?
Yeah, okay. So some of the things we want to avoid in terms of breathing, so like shallow breathing.
Shallow breathing, shallow, high, kind of, you see the people that breathe with their whole shoulders and upper chest.
Accompanied with a lot of unnecessary tension.
Correct.
Because breathing happens through the lungs. So
it does.
All down here.
It does.
So expanding, creating space.
The ribs actually flare out like the handle on a bucket. Mm-hmm. So when you breathe in, the ribs kind of expand and the diaphragm lowers down. In an optimal breath. So in a suboptimal breath, you won't see that. You'll actually see these short, shallow, almost little shoulder shrugs, won't you?
Yeah.
And there's a few other things. I think some people can get kind of tingly in the fingers and a bit kind of lightheaded.
So hyperventilating.
Yeah, I think sighing and yawning are signs that you may not be breathing optimally because you're trying to get that little bit of extra oxygen in maybe. What are some of the reasons why people might not be breathing optimally? I can think of a couple.
So posture contributes to it as well as like
Definitely.
muscular tightnesses and stuff.
So if you are this kind of position here with a rounded upper back, you're going to find it really hard to flare those ribs when you inhale.
To create space. In the thorax.
Yep, so posture is definitely, so when you're sitting at the computer like this, if you're at the computer a lot or driving a lot with this really kind of forward shoulder, forward head posture, you're going to find it really hard to get an optimal inhalation.
Yeah.
What's another reason why people might not be breathing correctly?
Suppose maybe they don't know how to breathe correctly.
True.
So we talk about a few techniques.
We can talk about a few techniques. Well, one other thing first though is stress. 100%. Stress is probably the primary reason in this day and age why people don't breathe properly. Even though posture and stress are sometimes related, one of the first thing that happens to your body when you get into a period of stress or anxiety or anything like that is your body prepares for flight or for fight.
Yeah.
And it does that by increasing your respiration rate, which normally happens with these short, shallow breaths because you're getting ready for action.
A battle.
For a battle. Your body can't tell the difference with stress between a life and death situation or just having a really high workload.
Yeah.
So posture and stress, I would say, are two that I can think off the top of my head, the primary reasons why people would have an inefficient or suboptimal breath.
Nasal breathing.
Let's talk about nasal breathing.
Let's talk about nasal breathing. Try.
Nasal breathing. So most people breathe one of two ways. They either breathe in through the nose or they breathe in through the mouth. Optimally, 90% of the time you would be breathing mostly through your nose, and there's a few reasons for that. Number one, the nose humidifies the air as it goes in and also filters it. So the warmer, humidified, filtered air is absorbed more readily through the lungs.
Makes it
into your
easier
blood.
to diffuse.
Sure does. Sure does. So that's why nasal breathing is more important. And one of the main reasons why people these days breathe maybe more through their mouth, one, because maybe they don't know. And the other reason is when you're in this forward posture, you actually have this kind of lax jaw. It's maybe hard to see from here, but when your head slides forward, your mouth actually falls open, and it's just because your mouth's open, you tend to breathe through it. It's comfortable. So when you have
more restricted too.
More restricted. So when you're sitting in a more neutral position with your chin slightly tucked, the mouth actually closes almost on its own, and it feels to me like the nasal passage opens. I'm actually not 100% sure, but I reckon as soon as you tuck that chin a little bit, it's almost like they open up ready for breath.
Yeah.
So I know in a lot of like Native American cultures, they'll actually encourage sleeping in this slight forward head posture because of that reason. Yeah. So nasal breathing.
Also, too much mouth breathing means way too much oxygen and too much carbon dioxide being breathed out.
Yep, and the short, shallow breaths do the same thing. The short, shallow upper chest breaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why don't you tell us about the carbon dioxide balance and oxygen and why that's important?
Yeah, so when you breathe a lot in and out through your mouth, you get a lot of oxygen, but you also, with like a rapid breath, you blow out a lot of carbon dioxide, sometimes too much, which causes that. So the hyperventilation where you feel the tingles.
Yep.
So when you're not breathing as much, so carbon dioxide just naturally occurs as like a byproduct of processes in the body.
Yep.
So when you're not breathing a lot, carbon dioxide will increase in the body.
Yep.
Which increases the acid.
Yep.
So more acidic blood.
So your pH goes down.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Which stimulates the chemoreceptors in the brainstem to tell you to breathe more. So you need to get the carbon dioxide out to create a balance. So it's all about just balance.
Correct.
Homeostasis.
Correct. I remember we were talking about, well, is there an optimal, and nasal breathing is definitely, I think, most important, but is there an optimal posture or an optimal type of breathing for any one particular situation?
It's context specific.
I agree, 100%. So the optimal breathing for any given moment is the one that best supports your ability to get enough oxygen in and have that right balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide so that your body can
maintain balance.
Yeah, maintain the balance, get the oxygen through to your muscles and to your brain, which it needs. Whereas I think when you blow all that carbon dioxide out from over-breathing, your body tends to kind of cling to the oxygen, doesn't release it into the muscles and the brain quite enough. I read a really interesting study, and I can put it in the link below if anyone wants to read it, basically saying that diaphragmatic or that inhaling into the belly breath and a really slow breath rate of 6 breaths per minute or less, which is about a third of the breathing rate of what most people do.
Yeah. In and out over 10 seconds?
In and out over 10 seconds. Yeah, which is, for most people that would be a lot different from normal. Just that style of breathing alone can lower salivary cortisol, so the stress hormone measured in your saliva, and is basically responsible for a lot of that de-stressing.
Yeah.
So that's just the breathing on its own. That's not even taking into account being mindful or meditation or anything, just the breathing.
Yeah.
Phone's ringing.
He's calling.
Who's calling? That's
Hello.
never happened.
That's never happened.
Hello? You're ringing up to talk about breathing?
Just in time.
I get so
Let's get a conference going.
I get so many spam calls. I don't even bother answering the phone anymore.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to cut this out.